It's 7 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting order. And we want to welcome Mark Denker, who's our newest member, rep from the city of Ripon. And I know some of you have introduced yourselves to him, but we'll go around, we do roll call. So we'll start with Barry.
I'm Barry Vanderbrink, chairman for the town of Ripon.
I'm Gary Page, of the town of Ripon.
I'm Mark Denker. I'm the new councilman.
Go ahead.
I'm Cody Boris, firefighter.
Tom Krieger, Town of Fiasco. I'm Doug Iverson, City of Ripon Councilman.
I'm Kevin Clone, I'm the administrative fire chief.
Heather Donovan, I'm the assistant chief.
And Ellen Sorensen, and I'm from the city of Ripon. We have Cooper here, who is a firefighter also, but he does lots of other things. And we have Jonathan Gatsky on the phone, right, Jonathan?
Yep, Jonathan Gatsky, city councilman for Ripon. I know Mark a long time ago.
Well, he's in your district too, so. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Gary. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Tom?
I'll second.
Okay, you get plenty other chances, Mark. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, the agenda is approved. We don't have anyone here for public comment because Cooper is going to help with one of the agenda items. So let's move on to the minutes. Has everyone reviewed the minutes? Except Jonathan, because he's driving. Yeah, I think, Doug, I did make one change before I sent these out.
Okay.
It was in future agenda items.
Oh, yeah.
Something wasn't right, I think I fixed it.
Okay, what was it if I'm
I
gonna?
don't remember.
Doesn't matter then.
Is there a motion to approve the secretary's report?
I'll make a motion to
Can I-
approve the secretary report as presented.
It should be SCBA, not scuba compressor.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, did you hear that, Doug?
Where was that at?
It's on the second page, number F, or letter F.
Yeah.
It's not scuba?
Oh,
It's SCBA.
SDBA?
SC. Just take
S is in Sam, C is in Charles.
take the U out. Just take the U out.
Oh, I probably looked
Try
at
to-
that and just flew right by it. Okay.
Nope, that's fine. It's a word, so spell checking can get it either.
Hear anything else?
No, not that I can see, sorry.
Okay, now I'll accept a motion to approve the secretary report with the change from scuba to SCBA.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Barry.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Mark. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The secretary's report is approved with that modification. Treasurer's report. We're going to review the accounts payable. So you've got a couple different documents. We're getting closer to giving the information, presenting it like Barb did. So you have the check register, bills and applied payments first. And then on the back you have the budget versus actuals. This is cash based with expenditures. And you know, that's my favorite sheet. So we have 45% of our revenues in for the year, and our total expenses look to be 31.5%, which is actually really good.
Oh, I'm sorry, where were we at, Ellen?
I'm looking at budget versus actuals,
Oh, okay, let's see where we are.
and then we'll go back to the check register.
So we're 45% of the way through the year and 31% of budget.
No, we're 45% revenues are in for the year, and 31.5% expenditures through the year,
Okay, that is good.
yeah. And I think most of it is coming from the full-time wages, which is where we're pulling Kevin's funds from. But you can see part-time salaries, our budget is almost $300,000, but year-to-date, we're at 77,700. So I think Heather's done a magnificent job managing scheduling for us. So thank you. But now you guys can go back to the check register because I do this when I sign the checks, I look at all that stuff. And you're now coding them.
Correct. Yes.
So Heather opens the mail, gives it to him, he codes the bills for payment.
Yep.
And then she puts them in the accounting system for payment.
Yep, the other thing that Heather and I created was that so Heather put together an Excel spreadsheet. So this is probably a little more than is what's needed, but what it does is it helps us continue to plan through the rest of the year. So we set up an Excel spreadsheet. Heather entered all the different accounts here, and then when a bill gets paid or an invoice gets paid, she just enters it underneath whatever category that is. So that, I know it's a monthly invoicing process, so there's a little bit of a delay, not too bad. But once Heather enters it, it's almost immediate, so we already know what the balance in that line item is. So that just helps for planning in most stuff, not a lot, but in like truck repair and equipment and things, that's very beneficial, so we can kind of plan on which piece needs to get, and we can talk a little bit about the trucks too later on, is that once it came back from DOT, there's some things that they recommended to be replaced. Being able to look back at that new Excel spreadsheet, now we're like, okay, well, you know, this is the mainline truck, we should probably get this sent in to get the little bit of repairs that they recommend. So we just added another layer of being able to see where the budget is, and it just helps for planning, so.
And we had to look, I had to go through some documents and line items to get the line item, the number for buying that vehicle. It took a while to find, was it 36,000? 30-some thousand dollars was in the equipment replacement fund, and that's where we were pulling it out to pay for that truck from the SUV. But it took me a few days, I had to go back a few budgets to find that number. So there are numbers that I know that they're out there, it just takes me a while to find them. So that'll be nice on the spreadsheet too.
What the spreadsheet did, is like you have the regular budget has like these numbers, but then like
There's
the
subcategories.
detailed is what I put in.
Yeah.
So we know exactly what kind came out of this line, you know, this subcategory. So we know where the money in the big category is being spent.
And the other thing that it helps too is like for 2025, when we start planning budget for 2025, we can see what we've spent in 2024. So if we've spent, just for an example, 300 on, let's say, radios, we can go back and start planning like, or a certain piece of equipment continues to need to be, you know, maintained. We can, in 25, plan for that because that's where the money in the budget is going to a certain piece of equipment. So, and it just helps, even if we're trying to plan and firefighters are going to classes and we see, you know, a class or something, we can plan for that in 25 also. So it's just it's a good planning tool moving
Is the
forward.
door open? Hey, Jonathan. So, and anytime anyone wants, if you want to see the spreadsheet, you're welcome to see it. So you can see where the expenditures are going on vehicles. Are there any questions about any of the payments? You can see Reynolds has, we paid Reynolds quite a bit of money.
Yeah, they get a lot of our
DOT.
money.
The annual,
DOT inspection.
Yep. And the pump testing, I think was on there.
Yep.
You do the DOTs every year?
You're supposed to.
Yep.
We've been doing them, we did them last year and this year. Because last year we were 3 years out of compliance. So, yeah, you're supposed to do them every year.
Correct, yep. Same with the pump testing
Same with the testing.
and flow testing.
And then you can see Ace Hardware. We have quite a few charges there, but again, that's been taken care of. People have to show photo.
We had a credit, so a lot of these are like, if you look, some of them are from 2023 because we finally had enough invoices to offset the credit. So we finally could pay them and take the credit and it all worked out.
And so now if anybody charges, Cooper can charge, Heather can charge, I don't think you can.
Nope.
But they have to show photo ID and then a PO is generated from that. Because nobody can go in and say there's somebody they're not. Are there any questions?
So actually, on the runners, we'll probably be paying about that much every year just for the inspection.
Well, as the trucks get older, would that increase?
Well, yes, it depends. So like, for example, once Reynolds sent all their invoicing back, they made comments on future items that we need to look at, and almost in the DOT inspection, because tires have been, is on the list. Well,
Those are expensive.
I will, we'll take a look at those, I'll work with Coop and, you know, obviously if there's tires, the frontline trucks that they use every day, the ladder, that should have them if necessary. But that's through the DOT inspection. Now, those probably are still in good enough condition where people could still use it, so we wouldn't let renters keep the tires that are replaced, we would try and resell them to recoup any cost, right, Coop? That's what we talked about a little bit. Yeah, so,
Those tires, I'm sure, aren't anywhere close to.
correct,
Right.
right, so they go by the year, how many years,
That's
right?
good.
Yeah, exactly. So, we'll take a look at those and we'll use the recommendation of the mechanics and things that work on the trucks and stuff and see what they say. But yes, DOT and the pump inspection, that should be done on a yearly basis.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the accounts payable and treasurer's report as presented.
Make a motion to accept the treasury report, payments of.
Thank you, Gary. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jonathan. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, I think firehouse grant submission.
Yeah, I can't submit it until June, that's when the next phase, it opens up every quarter, so it opens up for a certain date, and then it's only open for so many weeks, and then it closes. So I'm working on getting all the information together so that once June 11th comes around, I can, if it's approved, I can submit it.
So we're writing, Mark, they had to buy a new air compressor, and then there's the tank, there's a tank thing. And then she's gonna write for the tank thing, right?
Yeah, it's a filling station, so we're all safe and compliant, so I would like to write a grant to get the filling station.
All right, so I think we already approved, did we approve you, right? No, we didn't.
So that's why it's on.
Yeah, because we approved you writing for the fire hose.
Right, and then
Okay.
we didn't get that one.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve writing for a firehouse grant for the, what is it?
It's a filling, the SCBA filling station.
Oh, yeah, the scuba filling station.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Jonathan.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Tom. Any further discussion? Okey dokey, seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okey dokey, that passes.
Just sort of, well, I can talk, never mind, I'll talk about that in Chief's report. Keep
Okay.
going.
All right, our friend who gives us an anonymous donation every year submitted a $3,000 anonymous donation this year. So, because it's money, we have to vote to accept it. So, I entertain a motion to accept with thanks the anonymous donation of $3,000.
I'll make a motion to accept that anonymous donation of $3,000 with thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Doug. Any further discussion?
Any restrictions on it?
Nope. We can talk about what you want to do with it later. Right now, we'll just deposit it. Who knows what else is gonna come up during there. So you can put it as potentially being restricted. Did we vote on it?
No?
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Thank you. Thank you for your patience in my not having a short-term memory. Chief's report, certification update.
We have 3 members that are in the Fire Instructor 1 course. I believe they are done with the course, they just have to put in 30 hours of classroom time to completely finish. They have a year to get that done, so they're working and setting up with the tech school on getting their hours in. So that might not be until fall when classes are back in session.
But they're still here though,
They're-
right?
Yep, well, one of
Training.
them, yeah, one of them is, well, I'll get to that. We have 2 members that are off fighting wildland fires right now. One of them is in that class, so he's just, when he comes, he's finished the class, he just has to get his 30 hours when he comes back in the fall.
Oh yeah, that other one, that third one was all certified and everything, wasn't he? The little guy that retired.
Yeah, but he didn't have instructor 1.
Oh, he didn't?
No, he didn't have
Oh.
instructor 1, he had, firefighter 2 class, fire
All right.
officer 2 class.
All right. Any questions about certification?
Oh, I'm sorry, I got one more on that.
Okay. She has.
Tyler Granados has finished his Fire Officer 1 class. He passed the written test, and I believe it's tonight that he's going to do the presentation to get his certification. So when you have Fire Officer 1 and Firefighter 2 class, you can become a certified Firefighter 1 officer, Fire Officer 1 certification. So he is presenting that tonight to see if he can get a certification.
And Tyler is a good example of the potential to grow your own leadership and have succession planning. Should Tyler leave, that would be a big loss for us, because there is a potential chief in that kid. Okay, April calls for service.
And I handed those out to him.
Yep.
If anybody has any questions.
We now know that lift assist is what's in red. Did you get one,
yes.
Jonathan?
Oh, I'm sorry, I have another one.
I got one.
Oh, you got.
And then one was that cat.
Yes.
They had to get a cat out of a tree.
His name is Viego. I asked.
Well, thanks.
Fire in Spanish.
Yeah.
So, how are we doing in calls year to date is 161, how does that compare?
We are up 53 calls from last year at the end of
Wow.
April.
That's a lot.
Do you have any idea what it is over like a 5-year period at this time? Like say,
No.
I mean, I was wondering, is that possible? How difficult would that pull that number together over the last 5 years? Like,
I don't
Like
know
in
if
June,
we have
like-
those records.
and I'm not sure they'd be all that accurate for
Well, I can
several reasons.
see. I can-
Should be into, if you look into NIFRS, they probably have that.
We can start charting it then.
Yeah, I was kind of like charting, say, for the last 2 years and see how it's changed. There are some other reasons why it might be different.
Well, we're up 53 calls from last year, that's actually quite a bit.
It-
For
yeah,
the
it
first
is.
quarter,
We
or
were
first.
down last year quite
We were
Yeah,
down
we were
quite a
down
few,
towards the
yeah.
end of the year, we were down. We didn't start tracking that until towards the end of the year. Is when I kinda got curious as to where we were from the year before. So,
Any other questions? Then we can move on to a fire inspection update.
I pulled the number out of the system because I forgot to ask Tyler before he left for the day. It looks like we have 194 inspections done. And those are all the 194 are ones that have to be done twice a year. So we'll have to do those 194 again in the fall. He has not started working on the ones that just have to be done once a year. So once he gets done with these, then he will start working on those, kind of in between to give them a break, and stuff. But so he's really doing good on getting them done.
Basically have 2 months left to finish
Mhm.
that first half, so should be able to
Yeah.
knock those out in time.
There's another storm rolling in. That's what you heard on my phone. Any other discussion about fire inspections? Okay, we're gonna move on to the bulk of this discussion for vehicle replacement discussion. You can come up. My question is, are these aren't like on the 5-year capital improvement plan that you, this stuff
This is
isn't?
not,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
no.
So, basically, I don't know if you nailed the whole thing, or just the.
This is what I got.
Okay, that's everything. Wanted to give you guys a heads up of how old some of our equipment is. I mean, so we can try to plan it out for 5 years or 10 years, you know, for future references on everything. 2025, we're getting that new engine. So that's gonna be replacing engine 11 out. 14's gonna be at that point where engine 11 is, at that time when we get the new engine
So you're saying that would be the number one?
replacement that we should be looking at. And it's my thought, because with the staffing and the way everything is nowadays, is we start looking at replacing engine 14, but we consolidate vehicles. We get rid of rescue 18, engine 14, and engine 16 while it's still worth some money. You can sell it and go down to 2 fire engines. And that cuts down on your overhead costs for your maintenance and everything else. You know, I don't know the exact numbers, but you guys are just talking about the DOT annual inspection from renters. Well, that's 3 vehicles down to 1 now that you're working on.
A few less pumps.
Yep. The tires, I just found out recently, they're due for replacement every 7 years, whether they're good or not. So, I mean, it's a lot of money to be looking at every 7 years, just for
How
tires.
much are tire replacement now? 7, 8?
They're probably,
At least.
yeah, 600 to 700 on a
Yep.
tire.
And the ladder's probably more, because of
Just
the weight.
load ratings
Load
on it.
rating.
Plus it's got an extra axle set on the rear.
Correct.
So you got an extra 4 tires on that versus everything else.
What's a tender?
It's our water
It's our
shovel.
water shovel truck. They used to be called tankers, but now they haul out water. So they
And-
haul 3,000 gallons of water.
So we need 2 of them. One is 27 years old, is there a problem with flow on one of these?
That was an engine, I think.
That was an
engine.
engine?
engine.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
14's going in for some repairs. Right now, we're having some transmission issues with it, where it's starting to kinda go in and out, so we're trying to nurse that through. They just replaced a couple transmissions at my work on a couple trucks, and they're $15,000 a piece. So I mean, I'm not saying we need, I'm not expecting decisions, but it needs to be conversation brought up.
I'd like to ask, I mean, obviously, the age of the equipment is a big factor into the cost of repairs in it, but I'd like to hear some firsthand response on how, you know, is it working, or are things, you know, when we get repair estimates on it, you know, if something's used really hard, it's gonna take more wear and tear. So it might be a newer piece of equipment. I just wanted to bring that up and say we should be factoring some of that in, and would love to have the, you know, the firsthand knowledge that you guys have of the equipment to be able to make those decisions as well.
I mean, Rescue 18, it's used for car extrications. It's just a big box truck with tools on it.
Yeah.
Or we get a new engine, we can put all that equipment into the engine. So, I mean, consolidating equipment right now is probably the best idea, because right now the volunteer pool is pretty small. You can't find anyone to volunteer or even come in for paid on call stuff.
And we'd be rolling an engine if there's a call, right? So we'd be an engine and the Rescue 18
Yes.
pretty much all the time anyways? Okay.
And Rescue 18 doesn't have any water on it, so we also need that water suppression. So if you get a new engine, then you might be able to only need that one vehicle to roll out the door versus the two.
Right.
Depending on how the chiefs want to work their, you know, their orders.
Well,
Go ahead.
can you tell us what kind of condition the tenders are in? Are they,
They run, they pump, fine. Tender 12 is due for tire replacement, if I remember right. Tender 12, I think, has some leaky valves and whatnot.
And you don't shoot on it or something.
12.
12.
So,
I think 12.
there would be down the list for replacement compared to the.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Gary.
You know, sometimes we look at these numbers, 30 years old. It's a number. Some of this stuff doesn't get used. I mean, if you got one guy hauling groceries into Ripon from Oshkosh, you put more hours and time on those things than what you would on these tankers in 5 years. I mean, if they're not working, they're not working, but a lot of this stuff will go for a long time. And one of those tankers has got DEF on it, the other one I don't think does, which is, if you wanna buy a truck today, a semi-truck, go see what the heck those trucks are worth now that don't have DEF on them. So they're just a lot less trouble.
Would it be, the board's direction to have Coop, when you start the budget, which you probably already are starting,
Yeah, take a look.
to have them work together on including what they believe would need replacement in the budget?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably pretty much what we do anyway. And, you know, in a tender, I'll bet you can get built a whole lot faster than you could have.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, because all it is a tank.
Yeah, yeah.
Ours have pumps on them, and some of them, a lot of tankers don't have pumps.
So this should go into a 5-year capital improvement plan, and then that will be part of the budgeting process, to see what we can afford, and then we have a calendar of when they anticipate that these vehicles need to be replaced, so we know what we're looking at.
Yep.
So how do you see this done? Is we're gonna put money away, or we're just gonna let the municipalities know that that's our plan?
What I'd like to do is see if we can budget, well, we're getting a truck in 2025. We're not gonna do another one, but if we're looking out to 2026 or 2027, when we get the budget, then we'll all see what they're recommending for purchasing. And then we will have to decide how we wanna pay for it, because we do have authority to go out to the public for money. Or
But,
we can bond for things too.
okay.
Yeah, but we can't tax, so how does that work?
Could be a referendum. Or we bond for it. And then spread it out. If a truck's gonna last 30 years, like a road, you bond for it, which could be more affordable. I don't know how many fire departments do that. So, I mean, there are different ways we can pay for things.
Are these evaluations, are they gonna be, are you gonna coach us up so that, because we understand there's some subjectivity to the analysis, so it's gonna be important to get an interpretation of, does it need to be replaced, or?
I think when we put together something, I think kind of like the 5-year plan, it'll have some kind of description along with each truck, kind of what our thoughts are.
Okay.
And I think once we do that and we can sit down and kind of put a plan together, obviously we would love to have your input on what you're able to do. I mean, that's the most important thing, and if it doesn't mean that's what we want. I mean, you guys have to make that decision, but we can bring you, like you said, bring the information, bring the description of, hey, this is this truck, these are some of the issues with it, or like Coop said, like, hey, we have, you know, with mutual aid right now and auto aid and what we have available now, I don't think we need to have like 3 or 4 engines sitting in the station. I would highly recommend having that frontline engine and definitely having a reserve engine. Then the rest of it is all subject to, do you think we need it or not? And I think if we can all sit down as command staff and have Coop's input on this, I think we can write a nice description and lay that out into 2028, I think we need to do this, and 2033, we need to do this, but have that cycle of equipment, because I think even if it's laid out in 20 years, at least then you can kind of plan and adjust for what's needed. I don't think, you know, a 5-year plan might only have 1 or no trucks in it. So I think we take all the apparatus that's here and even the new one that's coming, the next replacement time frame, and it's not in stone obviously, but it might be 2050. But at least it's on your plan then, and you can always adjust, you know, a year here, 2 years here, based on its use or issues that we're having.
Yeah, when I've done 5-year capital improvement plans, what I do is I had department heads bring me what they needed. And I would say, don't bring me computers, don't bring me software, I want vehicles, or not squads, I don't want squads, but for equipment like this, then we would put it into a 5-year plan. And what you're saying is then you look at the funding possibilities. How would you fund that? Right now, knock on wood, we're doing really well with the budget, which is why I keep saying in 2 years we'll know really where we are with our budget. If we are under budget, that money can then be reserved for equipment.
And if we're, depending on when or which trucks we think we might be able to trade in or sell, that'll definitely help offset the cost of, you know, the next vehicle or a tender. You know, a tender is, you know, probably half or probably a little less than half of an engine. So if we can get whatever, 100 or 200,000, or maybe it's not that much, but for whatever trucks we think we can sell, well, now you're already halfway there or a third of the way there. So however it looks, I think it's gonna take a little time to sit down and kind of evaluate and put a really nice plan together, but there's nothing more important than trying to plan for an engine. So I think we'll, like I said, sit down with command staff, chiefs, Coop, and really lay out a nice plan and discuss, you know, all our options and bring something for you.
You were also planning on meeting with other fire departments and working with them, fire departments that maybe we haven't worked with for a while.
Correct. Yep.
And then that will also be part of this with the idea of Mavis and mutual aid. Mavis, again, wasn't only to share human resources, it's to share equipment too. So there is that discussion that can
Yep.
go on also.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions about this? We'll see it again.
Yeah,
We'll
well,
see it again this summer.
and I mean, I wanna thank Coop for bringing this forward, because if this hasn't ever been done and nobody's ever taken a look at it before,
Has
and
this
all of a
ever
sudden,
been done?
the numbers and how old things are and repairs can be shocking to somebody, because you don't, this isn't brought forward every time because, right, I mean, hey, this truck is 10 years old, we've still got 20 more years with it. Well, all of a sudden now we have a truck that's 33 years old, one that's 30, and so if nobody's ever seen the numbers or the repairs or whatever, it's probably like, oh, yeah, we should probably start planning. So I thank Coop for bringing this forward and trying to put a plan together because I think it's very important, especially that's, besides people, getting the apparatus out the door and make sure they're functioning is also as important. So, so thanks for bringing that forward.
Okay. We can move on to, do you have any more for an update or anything?
Oh, I got lots.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Cody. Art Cooper.
Yeah. So, site for vehicle replacement discussion, a little bit of update for me. It's, first of all, I appreciate your trust in having me be here, and that means a lot to me. I don't know if you've seen me here on and off in the past year and a half, but doing the work that we were doing here for McMahon, obviously you get attached to the people that work here. And I will say that, you know, being able to come down here and seeing what the core firefighters do here, should be proud of what they do and what they've done to get us to this point, because it's a lot, you know, it's a lot of stuff that you don't even think about that, when you guys get done with the meeting today, just take a look into the conference room there. I have the grease board in there, and as all the command staff has been working on things and going through things, we've been documenting things that we need to cover. So if you think about it, just walk in that and look at the whiteboard and see the stuff in there on topics that we need to cover and go through. So what I'm getting at is that I love being here, and I can't wait to help the people that are really, you know, have done a great job to maintain and sustain where the fire department's at and keep things moving along. We're gonna get it done, and my goal is to, when we leave here, that they see what we're doing here, the training, everything that we're doing, and people are gonna wanna come here and be here to be part of what's gonna happen. So, so I appreciate that, but we've been doing a lot of stuff, right? Every time I come here, you know, I come down here and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, I come down mid-morning, late morning, whatever it is, and then the next thing you know, it's like, it's 3 in the afternoon, or it's 5 in the afternoon, whatever, because you just start digging into stuff and you just keep moving. So, I've done, about 16 interviews with one-on-ones with the firefighters. So, and it's all been good. I mean, sure, there's things, every department has things that we need to work on. And, but the 16 interviews that I've done really want this to be successful. So I think we're on the right path. So my goal is, after the interviews, is to be able to utilize that as, you know, just like the strategic plan or like 2% dues checklist that we have, is use that as a foundation to work on things to make it better so that people want to be here. We have, gosh, how many days have we cleaned?
2 weeks worth?
Yeah, a couple weeks worth of cleaning, going through documents, so we've done that. Starting to put committees together, which is one of the topics here of where that's going. So once interviews are done, then I want to meet with command staff and then set a plan on what we want to, where we want to move forward with first. John Roy has done a great job of getting training established and get that going for the department. I came last night to watch the training that was done. And so him and I have a training job performance requirement book set up for John and the other firefighters that are going through their instructor certification, that once they're done, they can take this book and we can establish, you know, training for the newest firefighters, the doing intermediate training for officers, or whatever that looks like. I have a book with guidelines so that whoever is teaching kind of runs through the same procedures, those doing things the same way. So, we'll be working on that and getting that squared away. Like I said, there's just a lot of things going on, and I've said that it's gonna take time, that all this change doesn't happen overnight, because there is so many different aspects of the fire department. And so, but you can be assured that you have a great crew of people here, it's amazing. I watch Cody's here, every day that I come here, Cody's here. Of course, Heather's here, Cooper's here, and it's really cool to see that the passion that they have coming here just to make sure that things are working, that trucks get out the door, that staff is trained, and the new recruits are taken care of and mentored and things. So it's gonna come along pretty soon. We're gonna be in that really good place and with people here. So the other thing I've been working on is with Coop. And I told this to Ellen the other day when we talked, is that when you have people here that are willing to come in on their time off and spend extra time here over and above beyond calls and training and meetings and things, and they want to do stuff here, you get them the stuff that they need, because you don't want them to all of a sudden just disappear and then things aren't getting done. So Coop is here all the time, checking up on equipment, making sure things are operating and fixed. And so I asked him, I went through the mechanic shop here and I said, what do you need? And so he had some tools in mind that he needs to fix stuff instead of bringing stuff from home and things like that. So I want to get to a place where firefighters are here, they can sign on a board that, hey, engine 14 is missing this, or we transferred this piece of equipment out of there. So Coop we've been working together on getting that set up for him. So it might mean we've adjusted some storage, we're gonna get him a workbench so he can do maintenance of SCBA's and just little things, saws and that type of thing. So I want him to be able to come down here and not have to spend an hour trying to look for some tool that is, that he don't have. So anyway, there's been a lot of stuff and that we've been working on, and it's gonna be a grind, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm gonna stick right alongside with the crew here, and we're gonna get through it, and people are gonna wanna come here when we're done, so that'll be the cool thing. So that is my report. I do wanna say one thing too, is if you look through the calls that are listed here for the month, there was a barn fire a couple weeks ago here, last week, and that the day crew, the crews of the command staff that were there right away, no, it was not fully engulfed or anything like that, but there was a fire in a barn, and not too many times do you not see the barn just be gone, right? The day crew and the crews that responded, the command staff, had a heck of a great knockdown on that fire and prevented further damage. And there was a lot of texting and phone calls coming from the owner to Chief Hollitz about how well that incident went. So sometimes when it seems like, why are we doing this? Why do we have staff here, there, whatever? That type of call is well worth having that, just that one time. It can only be one time, but it's a time where you save somebody's barn or business or something like that. That's pretty cool. So great job by the day crew and the command staff that responded right away. Had a great response time that saved somebody's business, so that's pretty cool. So that's it for me. Otherwise, I could talk all day. But I know we have some more stuff on the meeting, but things are going very well. I'm very happy to be here, and I appreciate your trust in my judgment and moving the fire department along.
Does anyone have questions for Chief? Okay, we'll move on to an SOP for approval. Did everybody get a copy of it?
It was part of the packet. I tried to send it out so you can have a chance to read it.
Policies and procedures next.
Yeah. She put them in a different folder.
Yeah, I wish you would. Oh, here it is.
It's in the very
Kinda
end,
in
yeah.
the end,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's the very last.
And this is something that had been worked on a while back, but it was never approved by the board.
Right, it was never taken, it was never approved and put into place. So the safety committee, back 2-3 years ago, did this up. And then,
Tell me what this one looks like.
It was,
it's gonna look like that. It's the last
Is
3
it the
pages
way
of your
back?
The
packet.
turnout gear?
Yes,
yeah.
it's the last 3
And the way
pages of
back.
your packet, your board packet.
And once you approve the new policies and procedures, Heather will be sending this out, and it'll be in the order of the agenda.
She tried, cause she's like, do I have it the right? And I'm like, I thought she did, but then I went back to. But, yeah, so it's just, and I kinda, because it's so lengthy, yes, that's why I wanted it out with the packet, so everybody could have a chance to look it over. Beforehand.
And there's this sort of a segregation among the turnout gear and other things too for washing. Is that in here, or is this just for turnout gear?
This is just for turnout gear, and then
Okay.
there's like, rigs and tools, like cleaning the rigs and tools after a call
Okay.
is what's in there, but mostly it's the taking care of the rigs and it's. 'cause
Following
again,
a call?
yeah,
Okay.
so I kind of was trying to, and I numbered the pages in case they got over.
Oh, well. Thank you.
So, I don't want to overstep my bounds, but this is probably gonna be a fluid document in which that if it's passed tonight or approved tonight, that as it's implemented and you find different techniques or something that, you know, works better, it could change periodically. When you implement something like this, it's a lot, it's a huge change to current procedures, policies, it's a lot of stuff. And so, but this is probably one of the most important SOGs or policies that the fire department can have. And it's come about over the last few years in that as more research is done and firefighters are dying from cancer, and sometimes it's later on in their career, but they're finding that you know, the days of leaving your helmet black from a fire and, you know, that's the, you know, a badge of courage, right? And so, but what they're finding is the more often you are touching it and absorbing the contaminants on it or your gear, the higher percentage of chance that you are gonna end up with some form of cancer. Firefighters inherently are anywhere from 3% to 20+% has an increase of cancer because of what's in fires nowadays, the plastics and things like that. So to have this type of policy, you know, in the old days, you'd have a fire and you'd hop back on the truck and come back to the station. Well, now your gear's touching the seat and touching all the stuff in the cab, you're touching other equipment in the truck that may have been cleaned. We used to load all the hose back in the cab of the truck to bring it back to the station. Well, all that stuff has changed because you gotta remember, you have all these contaminants now. And then the very next day, you have a group of school kids that come down and wanna take a tour of the station. What do they think they wanna do? First thing they do is crawl through the engine. Well, you're like, oh, you know, we didn't, you know, it's not clean, you know, as well it probably should be. So it's the contaminants, and as fire stations are being built now in today's day and age, there's a procedure that the station, you have the apparatus bay, and then there's showers, and then there's locker rooms and cleaners and wash machines right off, you know, right there now, and you're not walking through the station anymore with your stuff, and so it's a decon area now right outside the apparatus bay. But anyway, being able to bag your gear, the sweat, you know, they're finding the liners. I worked for 20 years, I don't think I ever changed the liner in my helmet. Well, they're finding that the more times you're sweating and the heat from the fire, it's being absorbed in through your head and your, you know, ears and neck. So this policy will help that, is that when you are through 2 bottles of air or whatever it is, you're gonna be changing your, you know, your flash hood, and you're gonna be washing the liner in your helmet, but you'll have a spare to throw in there then. Things like that. So, bagging your gear when you're done instead of wearing it back to the station where it's being absorbed into your skin. So, not that it's not gonna happen, because it probably will, but it lessens the chances of getting yourself, contaminated with the cancer, so.
I think the one thing that I've learned anyway is that all these documents can be changed and should be looked at on at least a yearly basis, to see if they still make sense, and if there's something we need to tweak,
Yeah.
so.
Just have two comments or questions. Somewhere in here, there's just a specific called out, like it's broad, right? So I mean, it's mechanical dryer, so you can have any mechanical dryer, but there's like one specific, and my question was, do you want to not have that as a specific? Just because it's an SOP, I can't, like Greenworks, something like that?
That,
Just like cleaning solution, it's, yeah, spray a generous amount of Greenworks onto the gear to be cleaned. So I'm just wondering, just like that specific, just say,
I mean, yeah, we don't have to have it that specific. I'm just trying to find it. You know what page it's on?
page something.
The page numbers are on the bottom.
Yeah, I can't get to it, it's.
Oh, it's
skips
on
to the next
page 3
Oh, no, I see.
at the top.
Page 3 at the top. Oh, I see it now, yep. Okay, and we can just put clean,
The proper cleaning
yeah,
solution
proper
or
cleaning
whatever.
solution or something like that.
Recommended cleaning
Yep.
solution.
Yeah.
And I guess my only other, this is just more of a question. Do you have like an SOP for when you can go out to the next fire? Because I'm assuming once your gear is wet, you don't want to boil, right? So it has to be completely dry before you go to the next fire. Is there a different SOP?
He's shaking his head no.
Well, no, because what this would do is, what the plan would be that when they came back, we'd throw it in the washer, they would go get a new set of gear to get them through until their gear was washed dried.
Okay, so there's always enough to have.
Well, yeah, they'd have to use old gear.
Okay.
That's
all
why
right.
we're trying to buy new turnout
Yeah,
gear.
yeah, so then we'll have backup gear for them for
Yeah. And-
switching out for the day that it takes for their gear to
Completely dry. Okay.
completely dry, yeah.
Yeah, in a perfect world, everybody should have a second set of gear just for that, but with the cost of turnout gear,
It's pricey.
it's very difficult to have a backup set. So for now, I think we find, the best backup gear that is stored upstairs and have that ready for,
Okay.
moving forward if we have to switch it out.
I have it's related to this. How many turnout gears can you wash and dry at one time? How many sets?
2, I mean, we can throw 2 we have 2 washers, so we can throw 1 set in each washer, and then they both can dry at the same time, because we have a hanging dryer.
Okay. And
So we can wash 2
how long
sets.
does it take to do a wash? Half hour?
No, 1 hour, isn't it?
190 minutes dry.
Dry, yeah, but it's, so I mean, like, with having the day crew down here, or whatever, they can, we can switch it over, or some of the people will come down and say, okay, I put my gear in at 3, at 6 o'clock, I'm gonna come down and switch it over, I'll put your gear in for you. And then they'll work
Okay.
out a plan
Okay.
so that it keeps moving forward.
It was just a curiosity.
Yep.
I wanted to know how that happens, so, thank you.
So is there a motion to approve this SOP and the difference between it's a standard operating procedure or standard operating guidelines? Guidelines are not written in stone. Procedures are, but they are amendable as you review it. Because I know that question came up a couple of meetings ago. So I would entertain a motion to approve this SOP with the change from Greenworks to recommended cleaning solution.
I'll move to approve with the amendment.
Thank you, Jonathan. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Doug. Is there any further discussion?
Is this the way it's being, are you using this system right now, as close as you can now? Okay.
Well, they're not as close as possible, yes, but I think this is a big enough policy that there's gonna need to be some training involved before a training night or whatever that looks like. I think having everybody on board and really discussing this, how this is gonna work, because things are gonna be there's so much involved in just the turnout gear and the procedure after a fire, from bagging stuff at the scene and then getting on the truck, you know, that's gonna require them to maybe bring an extra pair of whatever, clothes along, shorts, jogging pants, shoes, whatever,
You're shaking your
to
head.
come back. I mean, it's gonna be a change, it is.
And the safety committee, when we put this together, because I was on the safety committee when we put this together, we were gonna look to see if we could buy like, and I don't wanna say a name brand, but like something like a Croc or whatever, so we could throw different sizes in a bin in one of the rigs, and that way you just go and grab the closest size shoe you needed to wear to get you back to the station, so you weren't coming back in your stocking feet. If we had, you know, and then have different clothes on the rig if we needed to, just to get the 3 people or whatever that rode in that rig back to the station. You know, we wouldn't have to have a set of gear for so every single person could change out, because not every single person goes in. So,
Cody, you don't have anything you wanna share? Nope.
This is all new.
it's gonna be a trial and error thing. It's gonna be like, okay, we tried this, yeah, that's just not feasible. How are we gonna revamp it so that it fits for us better?
Yep.
You know,
Just have to back to the trailer and all that.
I can strap you to the.
It's definitely a work in progress,
But yeah,
that's
I mean,
for sure.
it's gonna be one of those where, okay, the first fire, we go to put this in, and we're like, okay, yeah, that's not gonna work at all. Take a note, make some changes. It's, you know, we know that,
Work in progress.
yes.
It
We
is.
just gotta have a starting point to go.
Thank you for that explanation.
You
Yeah.
didn't vote on it, right?
Nope.
No,
Okay, so we have a motion by Jonathan and a second by Doug to approve this SOP. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I,
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, hiring of an apprentice.
We have an apprentice, he started with us last August, and so he comes in and he works 4 hours a day. He's a high school student out of Princeton. His name is Alexander Larson. He graduates Memorial Day weekend, I believe. And he has asked if he could possibly be hired on as a part-time person while he goes to school for firefighting through Marine Park. And so I've talked to the people on the day shift that work with him to ask them their opinion and, you know, do you think he'd be a good fit? And they feel like he would be a good fit. He knows what he's doing, he knows our ways. And so I would like to put him on as a full-time, I shouldn't say full-time, a part-time member, not an apprentice anymore, as of June 1st.
So it's Alexander Larson.
Yeah.
So what you're asking for is for us to approve the hiring of Alexander Larson on the day shift. Is there a motion to hire Mr. Larson?
I so move.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Jonathan. We're glad, this is a nice feeder system for hires.
It's the best.
Yeah. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I,
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, old business. So you have the policies and procedures and then the bylaws. We'll go through the policies and procedures first. It was requested that we have Jim Macy take a look at these, and so these little comments on the side, when you see them on the side, those are Jim's. And I think, yeah, they're here, they look like this.
So they're there.
And then, was your change in the bylaws or the policies and
it
procedures?
was in the, hold on here.
Yeah, it's not farm.
It was in
Oh, no, I
the
see.
policies and procedures, which is weird. It's section 1, administrative policies and procedures. Page 6.
Right here,
Yeah,
section 1, it looks like this.
yeah. It's in the last part of section B. I was kind of,
In the last two sentences?
it's like the last 6.
Okay,
So, when I was on the board before, remember, the secretary treasurer, he had a laptop and he was recording all of the stuff. I didn't understand why, and then today, when I'm looking through this popped right out at me. It's not highlighted or anything. It says, the secretary shall maintain a duplicate digital electronic copies of the fire chief's personal record, blah, blah, blah. Copies of the fire chief's personal file and records on a fire district issued laptop, external hard drive, and electronic or digital memory storage device and laptop, hard drive, or electronic. It says, every open meeting of the fire district board that's under C shall be electronically or digitally recorded unless extraneous circumstances arise that make such meeting or recording impractical. It goes on to say you have a district issued laptop, you're recording all this. One of the first meetings when I was secretary treasurer, Jim Macy says, why are you doing this? You're creating another public record, it's not needed. He didn't know about this, I didn't realize this was in here, saying that I'm supposed to be recording it. Well, we have the Ripon channel. I'm keeping minutes, I'm writing them down, and we're approving them, like almost everybody else in the world does. So, as a discussion item for tonight, and maybe as an action item next time, I'd like to amend that and take away, there's a lot of stuff in here, A, B, C, and D, and maybe E. Needs to be looked at as the duties of the secretary treasurer. I would just, as a discussion, like to just put this in, the secretary shall identify those present, record all votes taken, author a brief summary of issues discussed at board meetings and closed sessions, well, maybe not in closed sessions, but the secretary will submit minutes.
You have to take minutes at closed
Yeah,
session.
yeah, right, and take those minutes within 14 days of each, and submit them within 14 days of each meeting for distribution, and then file as a permanent record.
Did you say something about the Ripon channel recording?
Yes, the Ripon channel records all this.
Can you put that in your language?
Sure.
Okay, so if everyone's agreeable, we'll go ahead and edit this section and put that in. Are there any objections to that? Okay, thank you, Doug. So if we want to go through I'm not going to go through this line by line. We're going to go look at Jim Macy's. This is what I'd like to do. Look at Jim Macy's comments, discuss them if anybody has questions. What I've written, when we get to the bylaws, I've written in the bylaws that the board cannot approve a bylaw change unless there's 30 days notice to the public, which would make this a July meeting, because there's only 29 days between now and our next meeting. So that's how I'd like to do it, if everybody's okay with that.
Okay, what page are we on? I'm sorry.
We haven't gotten on a page.
We're not on a page, we're in policies and procedures.
Okay.
Oh, heavy precipitation has been reported in our area. So I think the other thing is, by waiting to approve at our July meeting, that gives Chief Clone and Heather time to look at these, like what will be Appendix A for charges, to look at our fee structure and have those read, because the fee structure should be in place to help inform their budget.
We're talking about that today.
Okay, so that's my goal. So
So we're not looking at the stuff that you guys didn't read, because I think you guys went over that.
we went over the
once before, right?
stuff in red and
Okay.
green.
Yep, okay.
We're gonna
Just
go
wanna make sure.
over what Jim Macy has added.
Okay.
So his page 11, he says, he would recommend not setting a specific time period. 20 days is pretty long. And this is within regard to policy 2.1, section B, discipline of fire chief. Because we had the notice of a specific written complaint shall be given to the fire chief. We had at least 20 days prior to the meeting. He's saying he would recommend not setting a specific time period, and 20 days is too long. So he's recommending we just strike at least 20 days, and it reads, given to the fire chief prior to the meeting with the fire district board. Jonathan shrugged, that means he's cool with it. Mark's shaking his head.
So basically, as it reads, it would say that the fire chief would receive notice, specific written notice of the complaint before the meeting. I'm assuming given a small amount of time or a reasonable amount of time to review the complaint,
Yeah,
and then to go into the meeting.
yep, yep. Is there any objection to that? Tom's shaking his head too. Okay, so then we'll move on to section D. His comment is, again, I would leave this to the chief. You do have a complaint procedure that comes to the board, is a subordinate disagrees with the chief's discipline. So, he's saying, we have, however, the fire chief's power to suspend or terminate personnel shall at all times be subject to the review and approval of the board. And he thinks that should be left, leave it to the chief. You do have a complaint procedure that comes to the board if a subordinate disagrees with the chief's discipline. So he's doing a strike through on however the fire chief's power to suspend or terminate personnel shall at all times be subject to review and approval of the board. He's saying it's stated in another section.
I guess my other question is, does everyone on the fire department know about the other procedure?
What we're going to have to do with this, once the policies and procedures and the bylaws are changed, everybody's going to have to get a copy. And they're also then, once these are approved, we're going to have to start working on a handbook, an employee handbook. Because we need to clearly show folks, at least give them the information. Whether they read it or not is up to them. But we owe people clearly defined processes. And this can easily be sent out to their emails. So is everybody okay with striking, however, the fire chief's power to suspend or terminate personnel shall at all times be subject to the review and approval of the board? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's okay. Cody, you're cracking me up. Okay, policy 2.2, page 12, establishing dates for the service year. I see service is spelled wrong. He's saying, he used the word service, oh, I wrote it wrong. He used the word service since not all personnel are employees. So, that works. Okay, everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Let's see then, on page 14. Okay, he says, this is why we had our employment attorney look at this. He's saying to strike section C because everyone is at will and probation does not apply.
I have a question about that,
Yeah.
because when we put them on, they have a year, we put them in a year probation. So when they come on, then they don't have a probationary period anymore. So it is strictly, when they come on, they're a full-fledged firefighter, is what he's trying to say.
No, he's saying they're an at-will employee. That's different.
Okay.
An
I'm
at-will
just
employee is,
trying to verify
yeah,
that.
at-will means that you don't have to be fired for cause.
Right,
That you could just say you're done.
okay.
And he did, when we get to the bylaws, I had a bad day last Wednesday. I had to go off my thyroid medication, I had to talk to 3 attorneys. Yeah, it was not a good day. But by the end of the day, there is now, I think you and I talked about this.
Little bit, yep.
There are 2 or 3 different statutes in state law that define a fire department, correct? Okay, so Jim added the the statute that makes us an at-will employer. So this is mirroring the at-will employment statute that he put in the bylaws. Does that make sense?
So it looks like the language as it is now kind of says, well, there's a year where you can kind of feel each other out, and if you're, you know, a good fit, then you'll be kept on, and if you're not such a good fit, then below standard performance or the inability to meet active status requirements will be cause for termination. That's not necessary.
Right.
Because the statute that we would be operating under just says that, well, if someone's not working out, they can
Yes.
either be put on, you know, you bring them aside and let them work on it first normally, right? Management.
And part of what they consider a probationary period is to be a firefighter here, you have to have firefighter 1. You have to be certified in the state of Wisconsin as a firefighter 1. And that's part of what they're working to achieve in that first bit. So are we okay with that one? Okay. And then let's see what else he has. He went over the sexual harassment part and he left it.
Where's that at?
That's on page 17. That's the part in
It's all
orange that he was supposed to review for us at Jolene's request. And he left it as is.
Okay.
We can do that as a training, Kevin.
Yes.
Because Jim can come in and do that. He does that all over the state. I still think it's teaching people how to sexually harass, but whatever.
So you do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's make sure you do it right.
Yeah.
We don't want you to get it wrong.
And I think that's the end of his comments for policies and procedures. So, do you want to separate motions to approve? Do you want to approve policies and procedures separate from the bylaws, or do you want to do them together? Well, all talk at once.
Well, let's do them separate.
Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the revised policies and procedures to be posted to the public by June 15th? No, May 15th.
Sure, where do you want to post it?
They would go to Karen,
Okay.
and then you guys would have to post at the town of Nebraska and town of Ripon.
Entertaining a motion?
Would anybody like?
No, anybody?
I will,
I'm looking at
I will
Mark.
forward, I will motion as described by Ellen for the policies and procedures to be adopted and posted.
No, we can't
No,
adopt,
adopt.
we're posting, we'll
To
adopt in
post.
July,
Okay.
because we need that 30 days for the public, if
Public
anybody
comment.
wants to object. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do the editing.
For adoption in June?
July.
July, at our July
July
meeting.
meeting. Okay.
I can't even talk.
Second? I'll second it.
Thank you, Doug. Is there any further discussion? And then you'll email that language to me, Doug, so I can.
I will.
Okay,
We can maybe go back and forth a little bit with it.
okay. All right. Seeing there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, so the.
Ellen, when you have that ready for posting, will you forward it to?
We'll have
our secretary?
Karen forward it like she
Oh, okay.
forwards a meeting
Okay,
notice so that everybody has it, so that the paper has it, so we're not violating any
good. Thank you.
laws or anything. So, we can move on to the bylaws of the Ripon Area District. And so Jim's comment here is he added 1.0301. He's saying may want to limit this to the intergovernmental agreement and reference Wisconsin statutes 1932, which allows for the creation of a special district for a special purpose, and that's what we are. But he put us under 1932, that's the at-will employee thing.
Okay. I understand what that is.
And I think this is Steve Sorensen, SS1 is Steve Sorensen, because he had Steve Sorensen work on it too.
Okay.
Wednesday was not a good day.
No, it wasn't,
There's
was
like
it?
too many lawyers.
So this isn't striking,
We are
This is
adding,
adding.
just adding.
we're adding and clarifying.
And I don't know if you
Very
know
clear.
this, that he used to be an attorney, he's not anymore.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Is there another one too? I can't.
On page
5,
yeah, Jim has one.
What about 3?
page
There's one
3,
on
oh
three?
yeah,
Yeah.
page 3 and 4.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I
I
don't
put
know
them
what,
over.
I got my pages on that stuff.
Just go to that,
So,
obviously.
page 3, Jim Macy, discipline should be delegated to the officers except for the chiefs. You can do that as noted later and in the procedures. You do not want all discipline to go to the board.
Yeah, that's what we talked about in policies and procedures, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So you're like, yeah, we need to change that if it's in the bylaws.
we did.
Yeah,
That's why that was a strike through.
right.
Okay. You guys see it?
I'm still looking.
Keep going.
Oh, here we go, probably more.
Yeah.
All right, gotcha.
The next page, it should be
Yep.
at the bottom. That's the language that was in there, because when I added language, I added it in red. And the green stuff is what I highlighted for discussion. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, then Steve Sorensen on below said, consider a different word like policy, direction equals mission and vision. Yeah, because the board's not responsible for operations.
No, but I guess the thing that's kind of hanging up is the policy, because you guys are,
Well, we do policy,
right,
and we do fiscal matters.
is he adding?
Policy, direction equals mission and vision. So what it would read was, I believe, the board shall maintain ultimate control and be responsible for policy, direction, we could say as well as mission and vision. Okay. So we take operation out, because we're really not responsible for the operations.
Yeah, take that out.
So it would say, the board shall maintain ultimate control and be responsible for policy, comma, direction, as well as mission and vision. Okay,
Good.
does that work for you guys? Okay. Then on page 4, at the top, C, Steve would like us to say district instead of board.
I think that's much better.
Yeah. And then, under C, this would be Jim Macy. All personnel of the fire district, oh, he added, all personnel of the fire district are at will. No,
I guess I'm like questioning C, like, not that I have a really strong feeling one way or the other, I'm just confused, because they said, discipline of the personnel other than the fire chief and deputy fire chief shall be responsibility of the fire chief, subject to policies and procedures of the board. But in the other section that we just approved, it actually said discipline is the fire chief or the board. So the top section gave the opportunity of fire chief or board, and this one actually says only the fire chief. I'm just saying they're just conflicting between the two.
well, I agree with you. I also, and Kevin, you may want to weigh in on this. I think the board needs to be aware of discipline or termination or suspension. How did you handle that in Neenah Menasha?
Yeah, so I had a fire commission, so they
Right.
dealt with discipline. So yes, if there was somebody in the ranks, captain, shift commander, they would, obviously, we would let them know. And if it came to working with HR to bring that person forward to the commission, then so be it, but they were always notified of, hey, this is going on. If it gets to the point where we have to bring them here, we will, but it was, you're right, it was a notification of letting you know. And then it was either handled by me, and if it escalated, it could get to the fire commission at some point.
So we should add some language indicating that in the event, should it be in the event of termination or should it be all discipline should be shared with the board, or do we just want termination or suspension? Because we should probably know what's going on.
I think we, because it's a small town, we need to know what's going on, but I don't know that we, if chief gets on Heather because, she's walking in the building with muddy shoes, we don't need to know that kind of stuff.
And this would be like major
But it's
discipline, like,
suspension.
like,
When you can't- when
Suspensions
you're
and
not able-
terminations.
Right. I mean, we don't need to know if he's just working on somebody, giving him discipline, to get him up to speed or.
or maybe after they have so many write-ups, then you guys are notified that,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, is there a formal procedure for, a verbal warning?
There is
A
now.
written warning, and then, like a second written warning? I think by the time we would get to a written warning, then that would be a notification.
Comes here.
That's, because that's.
Okay,
that's-
discipline beyond a written
Yeah,
warnings. of-
including and above a written warning. Because by the time you get to a written warning, you're documenting. There was something significant enough that the chief and the subordinate, or the officer and the subordinate had to make a note, and then that would obviously come to us as informational.
And that would be in a closed session. With the district, we'll say, because they seem to like that. Okay, so what I have is, we have all of the district personnel, all personnel of the district are at will. However, discipline including and above a written warning will be shared with the district. Does that work for everybody? Okay.
I do have one question. How often, if you discipline somebody, don't you make a note of it?
Well,
So is that considered
we pick-
written, or is the written considered when you give him a?
we have a form, and then you can choose if you feel that it's, if it's a verbal, or if you want it to be a verbal warning. And then after so many verbal warnings, then it's automatically a written warning. Or you can go, no, I think this is a bad enough situation that I'm going to do a written warning. So you can, we write it all up. It just we just determine if it's a verbal warning, we just write it up so it's in the file, or,
Gotcha. That's what I was.
Based on the severity of
Right.
the issue.
yes, thank you.
All right.
Okay. And the last one is on page 5 at the top. This is another one from Jim Macy. Hearing count, no, I can't even talk today. It's something beyond at will, so we do not want to use that word. So he doesn't want us to use a review hearing, he wants review meeting. And I have no problem with that. Yeah. Is everybody okay with meeting instead of hearing? Okay. All right. Are there any other questions about?
Do we need to even have meeting in there?
Yeah. Because they do have to have a meeting.
That's,
But that's the review, information gathered at the review.
no, it's actually about the, if you go back to one page, it's their right to appeal.
Yeah.
That's if they don't agree that something was handled properly with their disciplinary action, then they could bring it to us.
That is correct. I think those are yours.
Yeah, but you wrote on, let me switch them out with yours.
We'll
As soon
just
as we find
photocopy
yours.
and I'll take
Oh,
one.
that's right, you just have them, I'll put that on the phone. I'm just trying to get it.
Is there a motion to approve the bylaws as presented with posting on May 15th for the public?
Well, not as presented, right? With the amendments?
With our
With the
amendments.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I need my agenda. Jonathan made a motion for the bylaws. Is there a second? Oh, Gary, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okey
Oh,
dokey.
quick question, who'd second it, was it Gary?
Yes.
It was Gary.
Great, thank you.
Yes, Gary said.
Thank you.
It doesn't say much in
No,
there.
we gotta go with Larry when he talks. Okay, new business, we're gonna elect officers. What time is it? Okay,
27.
I'm gonna try to keep this
Oh,
going. Are there any nominations for president?
I have a question. I make a motion to keep the office that we have.
Well, that is short and sweet.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary. Is there a second
I'll
for that?
second that.
Okay.
Does everybody accept that?
Okey dokey. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Who seconded?
Huh.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay. Now, on to B, short-term goal 5, implement training program to meet the needs of the district. You've already been working on training since December. He's been coming in since December working on it.
Yeah, so it's going very well. John Roy has kind of stepped up and taken over the planning, which is fantastic. And I think, you know, moving forward, my vision is to, you know, by November, December, I want to be able to make it so that the training plan is set for the whole year. Now, again, can be fluid based on weather and things like that, but the ideas, the topics, the things are already laid out each month moving forward. I would love to have, and we'll be working on a training committee so that one person doesn't bear the weight of all the training, because it isn't just the planning of the training. John Roy was here an hour and a half earlier than, and he's setting equipment up, and then there's the, you know, the guidance of the training, and then there's the taking down. So to have that on one person, here's a lot of weight and time. And so looking at some of these firefighters that are going in to take their instructor certification, I would love to see them be part of that training committee, so that you have, and maybe even some of, doesn't matter. I think all ranks be part of, if they would wish to be part of the training committee, because everybody has their own thoughts and ideas of what is needed, and some of the interviews will help with that too. what I'm getting at is that if we have this committee set up, a plan can be made out ahead of time. And so, again, there's PowerPoints I've put together, documents for processes of raising a 14-foot ladder, raising a 24-foot ladder, how to fold, repack hose, how to do SCBA 2-minute drills. There's like 24 categories, and there's many different categories within those categories. So and it can be changed, right? I mean, there can be things added, there can be things deleted to do it the way that Ripon Fire would like to do it. But the cool thing is that it doesn't matter who takes out the training book, the steps are all the same. And so that's the start. But there's a lot of moving pieces, because then there's all the different categories too. So you start with, like last night they did search and rescue. Then, as you do that over and over and get some muscle memory, you start coordinating, all right, we're gonna do search and rescue and then ventilation. And so goes into a coordinated fire attack where you have not just one group working or two groups training, but you have multiple groups training. And so it's just, it's figuring out what that process is, and it takes a lot of planning. I mean, one individual bears a heavy load of being able to do that. So my goal is to get a committee together, but as John has been coming in, during the day while I'm here, we've been talking about some of the processes, but I would love to have some of the command staff weigh in on that as well, and we'll come up with a plan,
I think part of Cody's job description includes training.
Yep, so, and Cody was there last night as one of the, chiefs monitoring a side of the training, so it's been great.
How has attendance been for training?
What did we have last night, about 15 to 20?
Yeah, about 15.
Yeah, so,
That's a good number,
yeah,
Yeah.
and again, it's, if, once you start to bring more people on, I mean, it's, you have the numbers, so. But again, it's, it's training for the new people, it's training for, just everyday things, search and rescue, but then there's also training for officers, and so there's many different areas of training. We have all the categories, we just gotta figure out, put a plan together, put a schedule together. It'll be fine. It's just a matter of sitting down to do that, getting into the habit of prepping for, months ahead instead of days ahead. That the wait for, that person doing that is much easier if you just take a Saturday in November and lay out a plan, instead of doing it the week before, because it's very chaotic, and it can be, that person there's a lot of weight to try and get training completed. And I've been there, and it's not fun. And I don't want that person to feel that weight and then I'm done, I can't do this anymore. It's gotta be more than just one person, doing it or planning it. So we'll get there, and again, it takes time. You can't just flip a switch and it be done overnight. And, but we have all the tools, we have all the tools that we need, and we'll start the planning process, so.
Are there any questions?
I just have a question, maybe like a multi-faceted question here. So are there, just firefighters in general, are there certain numbers of training hours that every firefighter needs to do? So the second part of that question is, if we, some future state, if we had a really solid training plan, is there a potential that could be revenue for our district, for other local fire departments that maybe didn't want to invest in a training of their own, that they could, pay X amount to come here for training?
That's hard to say. It would have to be, one, you'd have to have the certified instructors conducting the training. Chances are probably not. Now, the one thing that could be is, and it's not usable, is the training tower. you know, but that's gotta move, that's a whole nother, you know, topic at a different time when I can go through it, but that does have to be looked at. But, yeah, for an example, that would be something that you could, you know, charge to have somebody come and utilize that instead of driving, you know, to Fox Valley Tech or to, I don't know what Moraine Park has, but whatever. So typically that, to have somebody come, when you're paying for training, typically there's some kind of presenter from out of state or a technical college that may charge $50 or whatever it is to host a training, but typically you don't see that within a department that they charge another department for coming. I guess it depends on what it is. So, but it's possible, depending on the topic.
Okay.
Any other questions? We can move on to short-term goal 6, strengthen organizational culture within the district. And you've already been meeting with individuals one-on-one.
I have, yep, so I have about 16, like I said, about 16 interviews completed. Again, the strength in the culture and the organization here, again, it's allowing, you know, it's allowing people that have, again, doesn't matter the rank, but it allows somebody that enjoys being down here or takes on a task, you know, so, and I, you know, used Coop as the mechanic person, and he's down here, but I've seen Cody down here every day too, that I've been here. You know, when they have an interest in something, whatever it is, you like to have that person lead, whatever that may be. Maybe it's, you know, working with the extrication equipment, or maybe it's like, hey, I really like rapid intervention team operations. So you kind of let that person or persons take charge of it. And as, you know, chiefs and captains, you just monitor their progress to see if they need anything. So that's my goal, is to create some of those committees. I have a list of committees on the board in the other room that we can potentially look at. But I think the biggest one to get started with is the safety committee, you know, being able to take a look at, you know, making sure we're doing things safe here, being able to review the turnout gear policy. I mean, that's a safety thing, so, you know, putting them in charge. Maybe the safety team is the one that is reviewing if you had, you know, maybe somebody got hurt while you're training or something like that, and review the procedures that led to somebody getting hurt, to renew or update a policy or a guideline to make it safer the next time around. So a safety committee by code should meet at least 2 times a year. So to have that safety team in place, I mean, Heather's on the safety, she's a safety officer, was a safety officer, and Chief Burton, very important role on the fire department, making sure the scene is safe, training safe, you know, so that is a big task. So I would love to have that committee, whether it's 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, a training committee. I would love to have an SOG and policy committee where they pick maybe every other month or whatever it is, they pick 2 or 3 guidelines or policies, because, you know, as equipment changes, as you know, studies are done and things change, a guideline may not be reviewed for 10 years, and that guideline isn't even pertinent anymore because equipment changes or technology, whatever.
Like Doug had said,
Right,
changes
right,
quickly.
Right, and so, again, is it a lot of stuff? No, it may take you know, an hour or 2 just to walk through a handful of policies, but then they're updated, they can bring them forward for, you know, change or whatever. So I think that's the culture, is to, you know, allow people to be here and do things, because if they don't feel like they're part of something other than coming in for training and calls, you know, they may not stick around. But if they feel like they're, you know, they're allowed to be in charge of something or take control or the lead of something, I think you get more camaraderie, more team building.
It grows succession planning, you grow your officers, you have succession
Exactly,
planning.
exactly. Well, I mean, even last night, we threw, you know, somebody that worked the day shift and threw him in as an officer last night and let him, you know, use the radio and make a decision. And then afterwards, did he do perfect? No, but that's where you coach them and you say, hey, next time, you know, do this, or hey, you should, when you do this, you need to look for these signs and things like that. So that is an excellent way to, you know, to mentor somebody, to bring them up through the ranks and feel like they're part of the group and that there's some kind of succession here, because pretty soon you have, you know, people that have been here for 20, 30 years and they're gone, who's gonna train the next generation of firefighters? And that's, you know, that's the hard part. And so we wanna treat people, whether they're firefighters or probationary firefighters or whoever, just the same as the next guy, and mentor them, and they will stick around. Because the last thing they want is to come here and get yelled at and, you know, told they're not, you know, doing things correctly. It probably happens at work, and why would they wanna have that twice, you know, happen all day long? So I just wanna make it a good place to come where, you know, yeah, we wanna have fun, but we wanna be safe, and we wanna, you know, learn and be a family. And I think once all these things are in place and they feel like they're contributing to something, I think you'll see the growth of the fire department happen. And the core is here. That's also the cool thing, is that you have the right people here that know which direction they wanna go. It's just a matter of putting all the pieces together, and pretty soon it'll blossom. You'll have a great department that's even better, and you'll have people that wanna come here because of it. So there's lots of different things to get there. It's just, again, it takes time.
Any questions? Is there any board discussion or communication that anybody wants to share? Teresa's no. All right, for the future agenda items, as you can see, one of the short-term goals was to update the bylaws, policies, and procedures, which we've begun working on and will finish in the next month. But then maybe you guys could bring a fee schedule in June for us to look at that could be included in the bylaws and give you a foundation for the budget. And then we've already started working on the long-range capital improvement plan, but that'll be on the agenda too. Our next regular meeting is June 4th at 7 p.m. Is there anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
One question first, on this fee schedule thing. We should, when we should get the fee schedule right, but some of these fees aren't payable on a regular call and some aren't, so we got that straight.
We were also receiving money for things that were not on the fee schedule. So those things will have to be put on the fee schedule too. We were opening checks and we were like, well, we don't even know what this is for. So we'll get that stuff on the fee schedule too.
You know, so everybody knows too what, I mean, you get a $500, but that covers on some, but it doesn't cover on everything. So just so everybody knows where we're at.
You bet, that's a great idea. We want to be as transparent as we can. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Tom?
I so moved.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Oh, Jonathan did. Okay, we did it under 2 hours. Yay!
Get a vote.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
We're gonna sit and talk to her to make sure that she didn't get it done.
Thank you for helping me.